Oh, good. It gets even better. We get 2 for the price of 1 this week. And producer Hannah, who's really worried about it, she brought all of her goodies. Did you bring your curlers and all your fake eyelashes and everything so that you can be beautiful for the Facebook tomorrow morning and the morning after? And
no.
Because you're going to camp out here, right? You're going to camp out.
I did have to pack, just in case, a week's worth of clothes.
Wow.
Preparing for the worst, right? I should get to go home at some point between the 2 storms.
Yeah.
But I tried to bring all my snacks and my pillow because I've reached that old age of if I don't bring my pillow from home, I can't sleep at the hotel.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I'm hearing some serious pathology there. You have to have your own pillow?
Yeah.
Oh.
I prefer like a.
Does it have the silk pillowcase?
No silk pillowcase, but it is memory foam.
Princess Hannah.
No hair curlers, but yes to the pillow from home.
And give Hannah credit too on the you want to be prepared for the worst, and the first system alone, the winter weather advisory kicks in at 3:00 this afternoon and goes all the way through essentially midnight Tuesday night / Wednesday morning. That's as long of a winter weather advisory as I've ever seen.
Yes, love it.
And then we've got the Friday storm as well with it.
Yes.
So just a lot of different things happen.
Friday, another storm. I didn't know that. Well, that's interesting.
Well, and I was texting Randy.
Okay, you're going to out me, aren't you?
Over the weekend.
Here we go.
Trying to get hotel rooms lined up for anybody that would maybe want one. Mm-hmm. And Randy goes, "No, I'm fine. I've got a big bleep pickup truck."
I got a big truck. And I was in a good mood because I'd gotten out Saturday. I'll tell you about my cavorting in the woods, and I have a text or a picture we'll put up on the webpage, and I hope we'll share it with all your liberal friends. Who don't know what conservation and conservatism have in common. They like to hug the trees and join the Greenpeace organization and sit in their easy chairs and donate. Real conservatives get out and improve the land, and we work the land, and we improve the habitat, and I'll prove it. So I was out with my chainsaw Saturday. That gets your testosterone levels up. Did you know that, Hannah? When you're working your muscles, raises your testosterone levels.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the chainsaw.
No,
Marsh, the sound of a chainsaw.
Oh, just the sound of it. Yeah, you betcha, baby. It's a Tim the Tool Time moment.
Wait, what was that?
Tim the Tool Time? You don't know Tim the Tool Time?
Tim the Tool Man Taylor.
Tim the Tool Man Taylor from Tool Time?
We have a Tim Taylor who works here in the building.
Different guy.
Oh, okay.
It's a different guy. Tim Allen, great comedian. Okay. Yeah, Tim Allen. So he had a great show called Tool Time. You got to watch it. And
it sounds like it would be right up my alley.
Whenever manly things occurred, it's that's it. It's guys. That's what we do. We chainsaw. We rip the heads off of birds when we kill them. We're men, manly man. Okay, enough of that. So that's why I was. So I love the snow. I love the challenge of driving in the snow, the challenge of getting from my domicile to the station or to wherever I need to go.
Boy, I thought being your OBGYN days, you thought you'd been about done with
That's
that,
right.
though,
And,
that end of it.
And now in the new practice, when people call, we answer, whether, odd hours, off hours. We've met people on the weekends, on Sunday, because that's what we try to do, is be available. Unlike the medical industrial complex, where you have to wait for 2, 3, 4 weeks. You may have your appendicitis, but, whatever. I'm kidding.
But you bring up a great point.
Did you ever have to trudge through the snow to get to a delivery?
They didn't have the parking lot so I had to pretty much park on the entrance to the parking lot and then just hoof it in. I had to do that. So Blaine Luetkemeyer announcing his resignation. We didn't cover a lot of that on Friday. We're going to talk with Scott Faughn a little bit later in the program. He'll be up at 7:10. Scott Faughn from the Missouri Times joins us. Blaine Luetkemeyer himself will join us at 8:10. That'll be an interesting time to ask him. I talked with Bob Onder over the weekend, and I asked him directly, "You're going to be pivoting from lieutenant governor to this race, the congressional 3rd district?" And he navigated it very smoothly, very smoothly. But I I would guess he's considering it. So we'll unpack some of that this morning. We hope to talk to Tony Lupo for any fill-in-the-blanks. What's this about a second? I saw that the temperatures were going to plummet.
Yes.
So I'm prepared for that. I've got my the extension cord out to the truck, the big A truck, so that I can plug it in and the diesel will start. And Hannah, don't go there with the diesel jokes, okay? Just don't.
I wasn't going to mention the time that you put the wrong fuel in your truck.
I put the DEF in the fuel and had to put injectors in. So now, though, every time I see that on my dashboard, the warning light, it's the DEF notice. I know how to do it. What's the second thing that's coming up?
Well,
the second system.
There are two different systems that we should talk about, obviously, and I want to talk more about the first one because there's a lot of complexity to this first one. But the second one potentially could even be bigger than the first one, but we don't know a lot of specifics right now. Time frame, Randy, we're looking at is sometime late Thursday night into an all-day Friday with snow happening all day Friday. We don't have a projection right now about how much. I've seen a couple of accounts, significant snow, but the projections are going to change. The biggest thing that we do know about the Thursday night Friday is temperatures are going to plummet. Yeah. The lows are going to be approaching 0, so if you're going to the Kansas City Chiefs game at Arrowhead on Saturday evening, you're looking at a potential low down to around 0, maybe 5 degrees, and there'll be, will change between now and then, but so that is something we are looking at. I just very quick on the time frame about today and tomorrow, because I think people need to understand this. This is very, very complex. The system we're going to start seeing in Columbia and Jefferson City and much of our listening area for the Eagle. It's a little different for Y107 and some of our FMs because they really range. But far north Missouri is looking at 8 to 12 inches. Moberly, let's say to Macon, 3 to 8. Columbia, Jeff City, anywhere from 1 to 3. But John Ross at Channel 17 is saying 1 to 5. I think we're going to be anywhere from 1 to 3 or 1 to 5. So the Weather Service and John Ross are pretty close. Look for rain to start about 3 o'clock today. That's when the winter weather, actually rain's going to start about noon. About 3 today, the rain-snow mix and possibly all snow. We don't know. It'll depend on the temperature from, let's say, 3 to this evening. Then about midnight, we switch back over to rain. This gets a little unusual. In rain from tonight through the morning, very early morning hours tomorrow, Tuesday. And then changing back over to all snow and snowing essentially from, let's say, ballpark 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock tomorrow morning through tomorrow evening. Snow ending, depending on your area, sometime between 6 to 7 and as the advisory goes through 11:59 p.m. So depending on the temperature, we're looking at anywhere from 1 to 3, 1 to 5. I think it's going to be on the higher end of this, just based on the models that they continue to change. But the biggest thing people need to do is be prepared and be prepared. Have a shovel ready to go. You definitely want to have your scraper ready to go. And the other thing about tomorrow, not today, tomorrow that will tie in with this, winds will be 45 miles an hour. And that could be, I told somebody about doors slamming and stuff. That got to be very careful of that. Not today, but tomorrow. So that just adds another element here. The only good news out of this, Randy, is most of our areas haven't had to have any school closings yet. I tend to think we will see school closings, no doubt in my mind, this week, probably tomorrow, and I expect some on Friday as well. Don't want to get ahead of myself, but we're talking about 2 winter storms, and they are winter storms. Somebody pushed back on Facebook and said 2 to 5 inches is a winter storm. Yes, it is. That's what the National Weather Service called it. That's why they issued a winter weather advisory. So be careful. All right,
John Marsh, what's going on in Jefferson City as far as preparedness? We all good? The salt truck's working? All hands on board. Is everyone staffed locally, metro-wise? Because we've got, I don't know, is the Capitol, do they shut down in this kind of an event? Or
Well, they get enough snow, a big major storm, as Brian can relate to. State government, they'll tell people who fit the non-essential services clause can elect sometimes to take the day off or end up under the taking a day of vacation and all. But I think that as far as the road crews, road crews are pretty well staffed, we understand, MoDOT notwithstanding, but I know MoDOT has put a lot of people on in recent months, too.
You know what makes me really sad?
What?
For kids these days?
What?
The traditional snow day has gone to the wayside for a lot of districts because of digital learning.
Yes. Yes.
No, that's so sad.
A day out of school is a lost opportunity.
All right, Scrooge. But don't you remember? I know it was a long time ago.
Yeah, I remember.
But when you were a kid.
Oh, listen to this.
Here we go.
Waking up for school, and then your mom telling you, no, it's a snow day. Go back to bed.
I remember.
You know, you could piddle around and watch cartoons all day. Whatever you did with your snow day, go play in the snow. But it was the best feeling, waking up for school, then finding out you actually didn't have to go.
Whoa, though. But you knew you just had to pay the piper later. I mean, that was in the back of my mind. I had brief exhilaration. Then it was despondence because I knew I need to catch up.
Now it'll be June before we get out of school.
That's right. There you go. When the days are longer and want to get out in the nice sunshine.
Well, at least for my school district, they always had extra days built into the calendar. So as long as it wasn't excessive.
That was back in the day, not that long ago, where those of us on the radio got to read the laundry list of all the school closings.
The endless looping laundry list of school closings.
We always got a big kick out of making a big deal out of the school in Mary's home, Our Lady of the Snows.
Yes,
Our
Lady of the Snows. Now, there are some closings.
Not today yet, though, if anybody's listening.
There are closings that can affect people, and, of course, that is, people that depend on, maybe some or all of their meals on wheels, that kind of thing. So that becomes a little bit of a critical thing. But, John, later on we're going to have to talk about this whole issue of essential services and non-essential services. If they're not essential...
And who decides, right?
Well, if they're not essential, that raises the big question, the big gorilla over there in the room. Why do we need them if they're not essential? I'm just saying. All right, that wraps it up for the first segment here as we get it going on a Monday morning, gearing up for a big storm overnight. We'll keep an eye on that. And I hope to talk to Tony Lupo a little bit later. I'm back and forth with him. We're going to try to arrange a slot for him to weigh in on it. Coming up, the Daily DC.
laws, those are up to the states. They have different laws from state to state. I don't think he should ever have been president. It's the Constitution. But nonetheless, there is a view of the Constitution in Article 14, Section 3, that he should not be able to run for president. But that's not the point. The point now is that, again, different states have different laws. We don't think in California that it applied in our state. That's what the decision was made here. But anyway, not to go into that because that's very intricate. What is very clear is that the American people want us to honor our oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Well, it's the Daily DC Rundown, and boy, I tell you, as Nancy Pelosi joins the majority of the Democrats wanting to just not have to deal with Donald Trump because they know how hazardous that will be come the election against Joe Biden. We have that in contrast with Barack Obama, apparently, according to the Washington Post, John Marsh, getting all over the Biden campaign, saying, you guys, you're going to be dead in the water if you don't have a more aggressive campaign. He's really concerned. We heard it from Jim Clyburn over the weekend. It's a big deal, and I think there are a lot of people running Chicken Little, House on Fire, skies falling in the Democrat Party.
Boy, I don't know. It's going to be one of those ones, let's wait and see what happens there. You say the smart money's still on Joe Biden to be the front runner, but there's a lot of factors playing in.
And isn't it ironic that Nancy Pelosi talks about defending the Constitution when the borders are absolutely open, hordes of illegal immigrants, over 300 people on the terror watch list have to date during the Biden administration passed through, and she's talking about defending the Constitution. We have some great sound regarding that when Mike Johnson absolutely eviscerated Margaret Brennan on Deface the Nation the other day. Absolutely took her to task. 28 minutes worth of just some of the best I've heard from a Republican, and especially in this case, the Speaker of the House. Mike Johnson's the real deal. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Here's Joe Biden saying we should undo democracy to take care of democracy.
America, as we begin this election year, we must be clear. Democracy is on the ballot. Your freedom is on the ballot.
Yeah, well, your freedom's on the ballot, but why don't we let Donald Trump be on the ballot and let the voters decide? What a novel thought that is. Finally, Lloyd Austin still in the hospital. Media didn't know about it for 5 days. Joe Biden didn't know about it for 3 days. The media wants to know why he 6:36 it is. Wow, time's rolling along. We're going to be keeping an eye on snow, of course. Later on, Scott Faughn joins us. Lots going on in Missouri politics with the opening of the session last week. Already fireworks.
Just a couple things.
Already fireworks. I mean, whew. We're trying to get Mike Moon on because he fired off an open letter because he was excluded from the Freedom Caucus. We're going to try to get him on later this week, see if he'll come on.
Well, and there's, an education committee hearing, I believe, this week for Senator Koenig's Universal School Choice bill.
Yep, we're going to try to get him.
Scott was tweeting last week that there was some sort of verbal tussle on the Senate floor involving, it was Cindy O'Loughlin and maybe Bernsketter. John, do you know?
Well, they started things off right out of the box. We saw that. We mentioned that. It didn't take Bill Eigel and company any time at all to start filibustering on day one over in the Senate.
And Cindy O'Loughlin has started a podcast. In fact, I'm going to play a bit of that later on in the program. Perhaps after the upcoming break, we'll do that because she is going to do a weekly podcast. She, I think, continues to dignify the Senate. She continues to, in my book, raise her stock price politically. She leads with integrity. She leads with, I'm the adult in the room without having to say it. She just conducts herself in that manner. John, she shut the Senate down early because they were little boys playing in the playground and not getting along. They weren't talking about issues. They were talking about one another. And she talks about it in the first episode of her podcast. What do you think of that?
What's new?
Yeah, I mean, I like
nothing new under the sun in the Senate.
Yeah.
I am such a Cindy O'Loughlin fan. Like I would wear merch. Okay, that's how much I love this woman.
Wow, I do too. I'm very fond of Cindy.
She tells it like it is.
Yeah,
and she's a great example of a strong woman who's not going to let, like you said, the little boys.
Yeah.
Rule the roost. I look up to her a lot, and she's hilarious.
She is, and she's able to let things roll off her back that should, and able to fight like crazy for the right reason, for the right issues, for the right things. And she does her homework. I know that because she was my state senator when I lived up in Northeast Missouri. And she digs in and she knows her stuff. So got to hand it to her.
Yeah, Scott Faughn, when the Missouri Times does the 30 Under 30 every year, it's always accompanied by a roast of a couple, local politicians. And this past year, Cindy was one of the roasters. And that was my first experience with her. And she told a great joke about little old ladies needing to watch their purses.
Uh-huh.
And then she asked if Bill Eigel was in the room, and she needed to keep an eye on hers because, of course, that was...
Yeah, she had some pretty good ones.
Yeah, that was around the time that, Eigel was in trouble for making it look like people were supporting Trump when it was a donation to his campaign. So... She's a funny lady.
Well, just about the time that you think, what's with those Ute? Those Ute are going to ruin this country. Next generation. I mean, I think our parents said it about us, and their parents said it about them. And then comes the USA Junior National Hockey League team. They win the gold, and then this happens. It was rousing, and if you watch the video, I guess it's their wives, girlfriends, mothers, I don't know. They show a picture of the women crying. It brings you back to 1980 gold for the USA national hockey team in the Olympics, doesn't it, John?
The miracle on ice.
Yeah, something else. And to see these kids, I mean, they're bellowing it out. These young men aren't just sitting there, just sort of going through the motions like you see so many professional athletes do.
They didn't take a knee or anything.
Oh, no, far from it. I mean, it was just exhilaration. It gives you a really boost, a great boost when you see that kind of exuberance and exhilaration. So back to what I was talking about. Am I over the top on this, John? You're a newsman. You're a journalist. Do you see? I understand when it comes to Lloyd Austin, Secretary of the Defense, people are a little worked up that apparently it's being reported Joe Biden didn't know about it for 3 days. He's still in the hospital. I guess he had a complication from some procedure. Then they readmitted him to the hospital. He was in the ICU for a while. Biden didn't know about it for 3 days. The media didn't know about it for 4 or 5 days. He's still in the hospital. One of the media beefs that I've heard is that they don't know why he was hospitalized. I'm sorry. I'd like to ask one of those media, hey, so if you're in for disseminated gonococcal disease, that's gonorrhea that gets into your joints, shouldn't we know about that? No, I mean, I'm hyperbolizing this in this scenario, but you know what I mean? Why is it anyone's business what the particular malady is? Am I right or am I wrong?
I don't know. He's a public figure, and when the presidents, not just the president now, have gone in for whatever, everybody hangs on the White House physician's word about, what they found or didn't find during the physical and all. And I think that's kind of the morbid fascination that sort of plays into it. Hey, he's a public figure, sort of like we want to hear about, what happened to the guy who died, the famous actor,
the Friends
guy.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's just a lot of public interest and all, and then the woke media. Well, we demand to know. It's our right to know. Well, is it or is it not? I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. I understand the curiosity, but I think we should respect the privacy of the man. Who knows what it was, and why does it really matter? I mean, he's getting medical care. You'd like to think.
Is he fit to serve? We're back to that debate again. Well, I think that falls on people's minds.
There's another aspect to this. I thought about this a lot. Having been in a leadership role, you've been in a leadership role in one way or another, John. Hannah, you're in a leadership role, trying to keep us men in check, us old guys in check.
It's a challenge. I find the leashes get a little shorter every day.
At least there's not a choke chain yet. Well, we hope we can avoid that. But if you think about it, the mark of a great leader is that if the leader checks out, the ship keeps on sailing in the right direction, right? So if you have a good organization, if you haven't made it centralized command and control from your office, and you've properly delegated and you've given people great authority, you have trust in them, you're not afraid, you're not insecure about someone below you trying to somehow, pull a coup or whatever, shouldn't we not have to worry about it? Yeah, so Secretary, whatever. We've got the junior secretary.
I wonder how Donald Trump would have reacted when, Donald Trump. I mean, he when General Mathis became, Secretary of Defense, and the bottom of that fell out. Not too much time later with Donald Trump and a lot of accusations flying back and forth. I just wonder how he might have reacted.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's just an interesting thing to think about. I for one would hope to believe, maybe I have my rose-colored glasses on, but I would like to believe that people are going to be able to manage, and the ship goes on. If you're dependent on, if you haven't built an organization where the organization can stand on its own, maybe you've not been the best leader. Right?
Well, it's a military, SecDef, chain of command. I mean, you have, if you lose the top guy, you've got the XO ready to go.
Yeah, no, you're so right. I saw an interesting thing, and we're going to talk about this when we come back. Who doesn't get, I love the way the reporter in the CBS Sunday News framed it, frustrated at customer service. I'm going to relate to you a story.
Oh, man, come on.
What do you mean?
Is this, you're like playing into the old guy stereotype, and you're not that way, Randy.
What old guy stereotype?
I don't know, just always arguing with customer service.
Did you know that was an old guy stereotype, John?
Well, can be.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you have bad customer service, I think that kind of transcends age.
Oh, no, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it, and I'm going to prove it. I had an hour and a half unbelievable
The average call center worker quits after about 18 months. Second, consolidation. All those corporate mergers of airlines and banks and telecom companies and cable companies. Now there's not as much competition, so there's less incentive to fix the problems. So what happens? You get a lot of unhappy customers, or worse.
So who isn't unhappy with customer service at least once a month, if not twice a month? And now it's the returning things and to this or that place, or there's a screw missing and call customer service because you can't put it together, or it's not working, it's already broken. I mean, come on, we've all had that, right? But it gets worse. It gets worse. And John Marsh, I know you've had that experience. Hannah claims she's never had it. She's already stereotyped us old men.
I never said that.
Yeah,
It's just there's a list that doesn't necessarily exist, but it's out there somewhere in other people's minds of things that older people tend to gripe about a lot. And that would be on the list.
I'm sorry. If people don't complain, things don't change, Hannah.
That's true. We wouldn't have a job if...
Repeat after me. Accountability. It's accountability. Right? And if people aren't made accountable. And now, so they did this great story on CBS Sunday Morning, and it had a bunch of vignettes of people who were frustrated. It showed them on the phone, and he made a call to somewhere, and it was they showed the clock, 32 minutes, 45 minutes,
exactly.
56 minutes, right? And I think, so, but now we know that there are ways to handle the waits on hold. What is that? Would you like to be called back at this number when your time is up in the queue? I think Verizon does it. Others do it, and they should be lauded. We should compliment them.
It's always nice. I'd much prefer, getting on about my life while I wait for a phone call rather than being tied to the phone call.
So listen, it gets serious sometimes though. And it relates to this whole influenza, which is rising, by the way, in Missouri, and COVID-19, which is rising. We've had a lot more cases. I saw a friend in the office last week, and a very dear friend, who is eligible for Paxlovid. Came down with COVID, feeling lousy, and Paxlovid, which is a pill where you take a couple pills a couple times a day, 3 pills twice a day for 5 days, within the first 5 days. It reduces the risk of hospitalization and death, period. It does. No doubt about it. You look at the NIH website, the CDC website, anyone who knows what they're talking about website, it's first-line treatment if you're over 65, if you've got other health concerns. Okay, there's an algorithm you follow. So when I took it a couple years ago, I just wanted to take it to see if it would help, when I had COVID in, 21, 22. And I guess it was 22. And I took it, and it was like $20, $15. It was cheap, okay? Well, so I prescribe it for my friend. I get a call from my friend's relative who went to pick it up, said, "Are you ready for this? Brace yourself. John, are you braced? Mm-hmm. Everyone brace yourself out there." Over $1,000.
Ooh.
Really?
Yes, sir. So I did a little researching, and I'm like, what do we do? I don't know. I mean, they ended up paying it. By the way, much better within 24 or 36 hours. Much, much better.
You'd hope.
And in the studies that were done on several thousand patients, the placebo group, no one died. 17 died. In the treatment group, no one died. Placebo, 17 deaths. Treatment, 0 deaths. Hello?
Pretty good odds there.
Hannah, can you just pull $1,000, out of your purse right now?
No.
Marsh, you got $1,000 laying around to pay for your Paxlovid?
I had to have to go check the cigar box.
No, really. It's a hardship for folks. It's a hardship for any one of us. So I get the card. I call, first of all, the provider line. I get the provider because I'm going to make an appeal. Like, okay, that's fine. You don't want to cover this. I can't stay up on everything. I try, but maybe I've got it wrong.
And I would imagine, is the provider line sort of like almost not front of the line, but fewer people have access to it? So I guess in my mind, I think it'd be a pretty quick phone call.
John Marsh, Hannah just made my point about customer service. So I dial the provider line, and I get this stuff about if you're submitting a claim for COVID-19 and there was a comorbidity, whatever, make sure that the hospitalization, okay, it's not about hospitalization. It's all about claims and claims denial. And there's nothing there about pharmacy coverage. I don't have an option. There's not an in. So I finally get someone. I finally go, I'm yelling at the robot. Customer representative, account representative, a real person. Finally, I get someone. Oh, you need to call the customer service line. So then I dial for the patient. I dial that line. Okay, this is where it gets to bizarre. I get on the AI. I get the AI robot. What is your patient ID? Now I'm impersonating a patient. And it was like, okay, so let's just say it's like Q65832. I'm Q65832. The robot comes back with, it might as well have been the station's phone number, 573-874-9390. Totally wrong. I went through this 8 times, and then you have to wait. When the robot reads it back to you, you can't interrupt her and say, no, that's wrong. Do I have this right? And all wrong. I mean, not even close. So then I'm like, Q653. Couldn't get it right. I kept pressing 0 till I have carpal tunnel. Finally, I get Camilla in the Philippines. I don't know, Camilla, nice girl. And she tells, after we go through the whole thing and the justification for the medicine and everything, you know what I found out? It's not a covered benefit. I said I already knew that, Camilla. I want to speak to a doctor. I want to know what I'm supposed to use for this patient. I'm sorry, I am not validated to do that. I cannot do that. I'm telling you.
You're giving me flashbacks.
This was 6:30 at night I started. I got home at 8:30 at night, and I said, look, can you call me back, Camilla? I've got to go home. I haven't eaten since the show was over that day, and I hadn't eaten the rest of the day. We were busy.
Like 12 hours.
I got plenty of reserve. Don't worry. But I'm just saying. And so I said, look, can you call me back? I have to check with my supervisor. So then I wait for another 20 minutes, and she says no, because I didn't want to lose this. I'm on my cell. I didn't want to lose it on the way home and then have to go through the whole rigmarole. I lost the thing. That's where I ended up.
telepathic snow day because of digital learning. I believe that's what I was saying.
Well, that would make it morning in America.
Yeah.
Hannah, the producer. There's John Marsh. How you doing, John?
I'm doing good. I'm kind of looking at Snowmageddon, though, what we're seeing for Friday with Weather Service saying 5 to 8 inches for our Friday storm.
And and that's totally separate. So we're looking at a lot of inches this week. Sorry.
And it's going to get...
I get Hauswirth wound up again.
That wasn't even intentional, but I realized how it was going to sound about halfway through.
If you haven't seen the double entendre of the... I don't think the century. I think it would be of the eon... Hannah on Friday came up with the double entendre.
And I'm still here. I'm still here. I didn't get fired.
You can catch that on the show Facebook page, right?
Yeah, it's clipped in a Facebook reel.
6,000 views, we understand? All right.
Almost.
That's
creeping
great.
up on it.
All right. Well, the great Scott Faughn, of course, publisher of Missouri Times and host of This Week in Missouri Politics, joins us now. Scott, this is our inaugural conversation together. Thanks for joining us.
I know, and I mean, it sounds like we know what Hannah does to pass the time when it snows.
I plead the fifth.
Hey, so...
more than 5.
Already, there's fireworks in the Senate. Cindy O'Loughlin shut it down early because of the you-know-what match going back and forth between a couple senators. She starts a podcast. It's going to be wild and woolly, eh?
Well, I mean, it's your fault. We all know. This radio Wake Up Mid-Missouri actually is what ground the Senate to a halt Thursday. You did an interview with Senator Mike Bernskatter. And if you've ever interviewed Senator Mike Bernskatter, he is not just forthcoming with words. I mean, it is not like he's the most chatty guy you've ever met. In fact, he might be the least chatty politician I've ever met. But somehow he said something that tweaked off the new and improved Conservative Caucus 2.0 that, trust me, is not here just to obstruct and waste time. They're here to pass things, wink, wink. And so it ticked them off so badly that that Senator Hoskins could not let Thursday go on without stopping things and inquiring about the interview. And, of course, Senator Bernskatter, not being the most talkative person, he let it go on for a while. Neither of them really said what he said about the new and improved Conservative Caucus 2.0, now with House members. But it ticked off Senator Hoskins to the point where then finally Senator Bernskatter. And here's the thing about a quiet guy like Senator Bernskatter. Number one, if there's a guy that could walk across the room and beat the crap out of someone, it would be Mike Bernskatter.
He's a formidable guy. Yeah, formidable looking guy. Yeah,
good basketball
player. He's got that
player.
look in his eye that if you ticked him off bad enough, you'd have a problem. But he finally said, I think you're just mad because you joined the Conservative Caucus. And they're always talking about the platform, which I couldn't tell you what's in the Republican platform to say, but I didn't tell you where you could find the Republican platform. We want the truth. I don't think anybody else could either. But Senator Hoskins is a fan of the slot machines in gas stations. And, of course, in the Republican platform, they're against expanding gambling. Now, no one cares. It doesn't affect anything. The platform is simply, I think Senator Sirpoy actually wrote the thing this time. But it come back that he said, well, I think you're just mad because you joined the Conservative Caucus and you're for things like gambling. And he just said it so deadpanned, and the place it was coming apart, all again blamed on this radio show.
And we'll proudly own that. We'll proudly own it.
You're welcome.
I think you should. Yeah, it's called mattering, no question about it. And so then Senator O'Loughlin stepped up and said, I make a motion we adjourn. And sometimes in the Senate things happen spontaneously, and sometimes they're quite choreographed. And this one certainly, to me, appeared to be quite choreographed as Lieutenant Governor Kehoe immediately took it up, said all in favor, aye, no opposed, and the ayes have it, done. And that took about 8 seconds to get in and out. And they said, well, you can't do that when a senator's speaking. Well, it was an inquiry. He was inquiring of Senator Bernskatter. It was only going to get worse. And so they said she broke a rule. I'm not qualified to be the person to tell you whether she did or not. I think there's an argument that she didn't. Maybe there's one she did. But I could tell she didn't care. She came in and out, and that was it. And Thursday in the Missouri Senate started on your radio show and ended because of it.
Well, and, earlier we were mentioning that we love Cindy O'Loughlin so much that if she had merch, we would wear it.
I think I had her on one day, and I told you she's the greatest interview because she says what she thinks. And she can get away with almost anything because it's, like, authentic, right? Like, whatever she does, it's not as though it's some game. It's not trying to get some Twitter-like or a Facebook-like. She does it because you could just tell that's what she woke up that day thinking she wanted to do. And so she gets away with almost whatever because it's authentic. She really does mean what she's doing, and people give her a longer runway. In an age where most folks are pretty phony, she's not.
Scott, this week in Missouri politics over the weekend, as I was tuned in, you had House Minority Leader Crystal Quaid and Senate Minority Leader John Rizzo and the House Speaker and Caleb Rowden and all on. And you brought up the angle of these guys didn't waste any time with the Freedom/Conservative Caucus and jumped right into filibustering as soon as they gavelled the Senate to order. And I thought Rizzo had the best line. He looked at Caleb Rowden and basically just said, thanks.
It's the greatest thing. I mean, honestly, if the Democrats are funding this conservative caucus, then Senator Rizzo will officially be the greatest minority leader of all time. He will take Dick Webster's spot as the greatest minority leader that the state's ever had. I mean, honestly, if you're a Democrat senator and you've been there the last 5 years, you're not really a senator in the minority. You get such an easy. I tell Brian Williams all the time, you get such an easy ride of it. I mean, the other Republicans do all the work for you. And I thought it was funny. So Nick Shore, who's a terrific politician and a really bright guy, he inquires of Rick Bratton. And I could tell they didn't have any notes, right? You could kind of tell when they freestyle. And he gives this well-thought-out speech, very well put together, about how this new and improved conservative cause isn't just about reading books and complaining all day. This new and improved conservative cause is going to be about actually passing things. And they're going to work together to do something about the platform. I'd probably see liberty in there somewhere, freedom or something, which I find all these people are all for liberty as long as you do exactly what they want. And if you don't, tyranny's just fine if you're not doing what they want. But then he pretends to go for 30 minutes talking about how everything he hates and everything they're going to kill and basically saying we're going to do just like the other guys, except we're going to actually win. And I'm like, oh, great, really? That'll be interesting. So the last 2 days, it's been totally shut down because they've been offended. So, if I had to guess today, the Senate will be shut down because of their precious feelings.
We'll have to see what happens. Scott Faughn joins us now from, of course, a dual multimedia guy is Scott, of course, publisher of Missouri Times and host of This Week in Missouri Politics.
Thank you so much, Randy. And I would point out for people who did not catch our interview with Senator Bill Eigel, I've posted that on our website, KWS.com and 939theeagle.com. And worth mentioning, there were a number of lawmakers who stepped out of step out of the breakfast that heard about it, that came out and were tuning in, kind of peeking to see what he was saying. So it caught a lot of interest. I won't name names, but I did see several people listening. Scott, I want to ask you about a bill I profiled, and we actually talked about this as well at the Governor's Prayer Breakfast. It's probably a long shot. State Representative David Tyson Smith of Columbia has filed a bill to ban teenagers from purchasing fully automatic or semi-automatic weapons. He filed a very similar bill last year. He says he's talked to Republicans. They are open to it. Does that bill have any chance, you think, passing this year?
I tell you, I think there's a better chance for a bill to pass and let toddlers carry bazookas and to outlaw teenagers carrying guns. No, to answer your question, no, that has no chance of doing anything. However, I would say this. I think the gun issue is changing. When I first began my career working for Mark Richardson when he was a state rep, I mean, the thought of a Democrat being for gun control was like, what? No way. And today, yes, we have the most, I don't know what you want to call it. Literally, if you can't get a gun in Missouri, I mean, wow, you're not trying. But I do think for the first time ever, there's a group of people that are banding together. This Moms Demand Action. It's a legitimate group. It's a legitimate interest group. It has support. It's building that support. And if you go to the suburbs, even St. Charles County, you see 400 or 500 people at these things. I mean, there is an actual, for the first time ever, a gun control group that's got some organization and got some legs. And I think now you see Democrats. Pretty much all the Democrats are for some form of gun control. And I think, the next step you're going to see is some suburban Republicans. The suburban Republicans, the ones in really tough districts, start to get quiet about that kind of stuff. You do have, obviously, if you're from the suburbs, you've signed a pact with Satan that you'll complain all day, every day, and never shut up. And so I do think those folks will constantly whine. But you're seeing more savvy politics. It's like abortion. You're not seeing Republicans in swing districts talk a lot about abortion right now. And, I can see a scenario 5-6 years from now where gun control is the same way. Tight suburban districts, all of a sudden they're not talking about how proud they are to have, 4-year-old by Kalashnikovs. They're going to be they'll just kind of get quiet about it. Mm. And I think the trend is, I don't know if the trend is actually to pass gun control laws, but I think the trend is kind of becoming, part of it is they passed so many gun control laws, the cops are like, whoa, fellas, a little lot there. Of course, they didn't care last time. But I do think you're seeing, I would say the gun laws in the state are about as pro-gun as we'll ever see them in our lifetime. And I would say the bend will be towards plateauing and even maybe ebbing backwards a little bit over the next few years. And it's when you see a legitimate interest group like Moms Demand Action actually organized, it is such a foreign thing for this state. I think it foretells a different trend.
Scott Faughn joins us in the last minute we have because we don't want to tread on what's hot with Hannah at 7:25.
No,
she told me she's keeping score.
Millie would be very disappointed.
Yeah.
Yes.
So look,
right now she's trying to milk a sick day out of me, so I'm not sure how I'm going to handle this.
Blaine Luetkemeyer blew it wide open last week when he announced he is not running this cycle, and of course there's lots of jockeying going on. I'm sure you're going to be spending a lot of fuel in the car and fuel on air and ink in the press on that, right?
Oh, yeah. I think coming out of the gate, Bob Onder, if he wants, is a big favorite. He ran against Blaine last time. Could be very well financed. You have a candidate from Arnold who doesn't live in the district. Kind of one of those anti-ag Republicans. I don't, probably not the greatest shot, but she came out of the gate first, Senator Coleman. Senator Fitzwater, I think, would fit the district very well. His district is drawn for it. He would be an excellent representative. I think he would actually care about a lot of issues that matter to the state, especially Central Missouri. His dad's got a little name idea. I don't know if you ever heard. He is the greatest mayor in the history of Jefferson City.
Yeah, we did hear. We hear that every the first Monday of every month. Yeah, we hear it.
There you go. I'll give you another name. It's just interesting to me. Outside of the Taylor Burks, I think is kicking it around. If I had to guess, you have Tony Luetkemeyer. He's a state senator. He originally from Farmington. He now represents the Northland. He is related to Blaine Luetkemeyer, and I think he's kicking it around. And I think what an interesting thing to look. Our friends in St. Charles County, we always make fun of them. They are kind of the laughing stock of the state. I could see those suburban Starbucks drinking, Prius driving, skinny, angry folks voting for that name ID. And if Senator Luetkemeyer got in, it on the first blush, it's almost a joke, right? But then you think about it. Well, if they took a poll today, who'd be winning?
Yeah. Good thinking. That's an interesting name.
Watch Tony Luetkemeyer in this race. He may jump in.
We'll have to change the name on the door.
That's right.
Keep Luetkemeyer in Congress, right?
Yeah. Just change the first name. We're good. Hey, Scott, thanks for being with us. Look forward to every conversation with you every Monday here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Thanks a lot, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I can't wait to see how you guys run the Senate today.
All right. We're going to try to tear it up again. And in fact, Blaine Luetkemeyer will join us at 8:10. So maybe he'll endorse whatever the relation is. Tony. I don't know what the
earlier, right?
That's right. Accountability. What's up today?
Now, I know, Randy, that you are a huge fan of The Bachelor and The Bachelorette franchise.
DVR all of it.
Yes,
DVR all of it.
John is right there with you. I know that you guys have little, popcorn parties.
Oh, part of
once
the
a
fan
week.
club.
Yeah.
Not. I couldn't tell you what
Instant
those are.
message back and forth during the show.
Oh, we
usually.
do. Yeah, we're texting furiously. Yeah.
It's adorable, really. This last year, they debuted a new spinoff of The Bachelor, Bachelorette, and it was The Golden Bachelor. Did you see any of this?
No.
Really? Okay.
No.
So it's the same premise, right? You have one dude who is stuck in a house with a bunch of women who are vying for his heart,
Tough
which
job.
honestly sounds like a nightmare to me.
Tough job.
That many women in one space with booze? No. It sounds like a nightmare.
John, can you hang with us before you go and apply for the next version of that? Just hang with us until the end of the show.
My agents are already in negotiations.
But the Bachelor, the Golden Bachelor, his name is Gary. He's 71.
Wow.
And he married Teresa, who is 70, over the weekend in New Jersey.
Oh.
But that's not one of the things making the biggest headlines.
What's making the news?
There was a couple also from the Bachelor, Bachelorette franchise, Braden Bowers and Christina Mandrell. I don't know who they are.
Okay.
But they got engaged
Yeah.
at Gary and Teresa's wedding.
Oh.
And, Braden is saying that he got permission from the newlyweds prior to the wedding to propose to his girlfriend at their wedding. But a lot of people are saying that's still not okay. So I'm curious as to what the Wake Up fam might say. Like, is it okay? I think, if you get permission from the bride and groom,
why not?
To propose at someone else's wedding, is that stealing their spotlight?
They have the 18-karat golden wedding, and it's the
was kind of a on the edge kind of guy. This storm is going to be on the edge.
Wow.
It's going to draw in some warm air as we go through the day. And what's going to happen is by tomorrow morning, the storm is going to start to deepen rapidly. And when you deepen at a rapid enough rate, we call it a bomb cyclone. And this is going to be on the edge. So it will get to western Michigan by Wednesday morning and be at its deepest. And because it's developing rapidly, the winds are going to pick up. And when they do develop rapidly like this, they tend to ingest a lot of moisture from the south and east. And what's going to happen is the main areas of precipitation will be along I-44 and then along I-36. So look for that.
So Tony, are you writing a documentary for Netflix? We've got a bomb with a deepening system that's going to ingest the moisture. I mean, I feel like this is a horror film with weather. This is great.
Well, that's what typically happens with these things. I love
those descriptors. That's
Absolutely.
great.
Yeah, they like to draw that moisture in on the south and east side, and that comes up from the Gulf. And I think we're going to expect anywhere from 0.5 to 1.5 inches of rain.
Okay.
And then if you change that to snow, I think we're going to see about 1 to 2 in the Jeff City area. And I think 4 to 6 up near Macon. And that puts Columbia in the 2 to 4 range. I'm going to stick with 3 for my location, which is north of I-70. But, of course, the Columbia Airport is halfway to Jeff City, so they're going to measure a little less. But
Tony, will we be looking at any slain, some sleet and rain on the way to snow?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. This is going to be right on the edge. The rain-snow line is going to be right on the edge. It's going to come right through the I-70 corridor, and so we'll see it mix with rain off and on, and especially tonight when it starts to bring in that warmer air. And then the cold front should be through Columbia anywhere from 1 a.m. to 7 a.m., and then we'll switch over to snow. And that's when I think we'll pile up around 3 inches here.
Pile up, not a good word with the snow thing coming up. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you so much, Randy and Tony. We appreciate you joining us. Tony Lupo, of course, an MU atmospheric scientist. I want to. I know there's a lot of interest in the Friday storm. I'm going to kind of hold off on talking about that. We've mentioned it in the newscast and stuff because it's a little too early to tell. All we know right now is that one potentially could be a real problem in the temperatures as well. So I really want to focus on this first system and get through it. And, Tony, here's what's confusing about this one, and I've tried to explain it on KWS.com, 939theeagle.com. I think you've done a great job explaining it. It's not going to be a system where we're going to see either freezing rain or snow the whole way through, but on and off from, let's say, 3 this afternoon through late tomorrow night. But I want to start with this afternoon for the commute. What should we see for a commute in Columbia and in Jeff City this evening, and tomorrow morning's commute? What can you share with us there?
Well, for tonight's commute, I think you're going to see precipitation starting around noon. So that'll start as rain.
Yep.
By the commute time, you may see a mix, or it may be mostly snow at that time. We may even see some minor accumulations on the grass. But just like the last few that we've had, the soil temperature is still right around freezing, maybe a little bit above. And that's good news, because that means that tonight's commute, we shouldn't see a lot of slick spots. You might, if the precipitation is heavy enough, and you might on exposed surfaces like bridges if the temperature's cold enough. So tonight's commute, not so bad, but you still need to use caution even if it is just rain. By the time you get to tomorrow morning, that's a horse of a different color. We may see enough snow that it may be slushy and slippery. And what's going to happen is the temperatures will be around 35 around the time the sun starts to get up. But once once that cold front gets through, I think temperatures will get below freezing by noon.
Yeah.
So you definitely want to be more careful on tomorrow's commute.
Thank you, Tony.
Tony, talk to us about the Friday storm. We're seeing some predictions anywhere 5 to 8 inches for mid-Missouri. And also, I guess a question to go along with that, either one of these storms, could we see some thunder snow with them?
Probably not this one. This one wouldn't. This one we won't be in the right area to see thunder snow. That would be more possible with the second storm. And the second storm is going to begin around southern Arkansas on Friday, and then by Saturday morning it will also be in Michigan. And that one is going to actually deepen faster than this first one. This one's expected to be an even stronger bomb cyclone. The other thing that I haven't mentioned yet, but need to mention, is the winds. The winds are going to be very strong with both of these systems. And I think that the second one will produce about 6 inches of snow here. And then with the second one, that's when the cold air really comes in behind it. And I really feel sorry for the Dolphins if they come to Kansas City on Saturday night, because the temperatures are going to be in the single digits by Saturday night. So,
well, the warmth coming from Kelsey and Tay-Tay's hearts will warm up the whole stadium. We're sure about that. It won't be a problem. Now, Tony, we know you've authored this book, Hot Talk, Cold Science, Global Warming's Unfinished Debate. Which chapter explains why global warming and our emissions and all of the farmers raising cattle, all of those emissions are responsible for the upcoming double storm that we're seeing this week?
Well, we don't address that particular topic in that one.
That was a rhetorical question. You know, I'm just the next edition will cover that, right? Next edition?
I think so.
Okay.
The next edition will cover that.
All right. All right. We'll have the Greenpeace guys get in touch with you, and they can help you on that one. Sierra Club. Okay. Hey, thanks, Tony. Really appreciate it. Hey, give us a buzz anytime if there's something that takes a little turn in the road that you didn't expect, okay?
Will do, Randy. And everybody stay safe out there.
We will. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it. All right, Tony Lupo. Hey, John, I know I look forward to what's coming up next, because you never know what's coming up on your segment. What's happening?
The Freedom Caucus doesn't have anything on these historic filibusters.
Coming up, and
Wisconsin, who orchestrated a joint filibuster. It stretched into the next day. At one point, La Follette lost his temper and had to be physically restrained from hurling a spittoon at Arkansas's Joseph Robinson. Into the modern era. Technically, Ted Cruz's lengthy tirade, if you remember that one, it was in 2013. Wasn't an actual filibuster because it didn't affect the vote at hand. But the Texas Republican made headlines when he read Dr. Seuss's Green Eggs and Ham during his 21-hour critique of the Affordable Care Act. I do not like Obamacare on a boat with a goat. And the longest filibuster in history of the U.S. Senate, 1957, Democrat Strom Thurmond of South Carolina, 24 straight hours over the Civil Rights Bill of 1957. They had his staff have an intern with a bucket inside the cloakroom so Senator Strom could pee if necessary while keeping one foot on the Senate floor. And they even tried that in St. Louis at City Hall in 2001. Nature called. Alderwoman Irene Smith's assistants were able to cover her with a sheet as she peed in a trash can. And now you know the rest of that story.
Wow.
When you
whether
gotta
you
go.
wanted to or not.
Now, refresh my memory. When Ted Cruz did that, that was the top question I had, top of my mind. How did he take care of bodily functions? Was that reported?
I don't know if they did or not. Maybe he had a really tall white and red striped hat he borrowed from the cat or something.
Yeah. There's always catheters. Or catheter, I don't know.
Or diapers.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well,
how do they, how do the astronauts do it, right?
Yeah, you're right. Well, I guess it depends.
But
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I couldn't help it.
Hannah approved.
Hannah approved. So, yeah, I mean, these filibusters are interesting because I think sometimes it can backfire on folks. They get a brand of being obstructionist. I think we're going to spend a lot of time talking about obstructionism in the general session this year, aren't we, John? I mean,
well, it literally took minutes from when they gavelled the Senate to orders. They jumped right into it.
And this is after the so-called olive branch. I mean, Bill Eigel mentioned that when he was on with us as we covered the governor's prayer breakfast on Thursday. Well, we gave an olive branch to him and just, nothing's worked. Boy, oh boy. And then Bernskoetter, Senator Bernskoetter, he was like, no, the problem was within their caucus. They were arguing about gaming, and then Eigel back, no, it wasn't about that. It was that different types of gaming. I'm not sure I understand all of it. But we will be trying to unpack things as they go forward. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, there's so many moving parts here, John. You wonder if anything is going to get done or if it's like a giant log jam with a million logs blocking the way through the levee, through the dike.
Scott Faughn had Senator Caleb Routon on this weekend on This Week in Missouri Politics. And boy, oh boy, he didn't pull any punches. He didn't sound too optimistic that much of anything is going to get accomplished.
Yeah, it's crazy. Hey, Blaine, speaking of politics and moving parts and a little bit of a surprise, I don't think anyone saw this coming. I sure didn't. Blaine Luetkemeyer announces last week that he will not be running this cycle for re-election in the 3rd District, the 3rd Congressional District, which covers parts of our listening area. And, we'll have to see where that's going. All of a sudden, I mean, Bob Onder, who had declared for lieutenant governor, suddenly, certainly his name's in the race. Mary Elizabeth Coleman from down in, the sort of the St. Louis area, Jefferson County area. And then Scott Faughn brings it up. If you hadn't heard that, you can hear it on the podcast. And that'll be up when, Hannah? Podcast is up when?
Usually by this afternoon.
Right, that's what I thought. Okay, I didn't want to overpromise and underdeliver because you got a lot on your plate. But if it's up at least by, later on tonight, you're going to have snow all day tomorrow, so you guys are going to be home, Business will close, schools closed, everything will close. 2 to 4 inches, come on.
I thought the most interesting name that we heard, with the whole Blaine Luetkemeyer thing was Travis Fitzwater angle.
Yeah.
I wish we'd have heard sooner because when we had him on live with us from the governor's prayer breakfast, we could have asked him.
And you know what? We got cut off by Hannah's hard breakism. You know how these producers are.
She's the worst.
The hard breakism. I'm still recovering from, having just started hosting the show last week. I'm still recovering, John, from the cat of nine tails all over my back. It just keeps weeping all over from Hannah cracking the whip on me. It's just terrible. Just terrible.
He's just mad because you didn't get any bacon out of it.
Yeah, you're right. And it was funny. Jim Schulte made a funny deal. For those of you who weren't there, I was just at the top of the show. I was smelling that wafting bacon, and I couldn't see it, and we couldn't access it. You know how it is when you're a baconista. You know how
a baconista.
A baconista, yeah. And so Jim Schulte, Representative Schulte, later on in the program, just drops one piece of bacon on a plate. It was a gesture, and man. Some people are vicious on the text thing and on Facebook, John, because they were like, only one piece? And I'm like, oh, come on, it was a joke. It was a joke, man. I'm telling you, people's tensions are already high in this election cycle. It seems to happen every election year, and I feel it earlier than usual, don't you?
Yeah, just maybe that authentic versus turkey bacon debate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. My wife pulls the turkey bacon thing on me once in a while. I'm like, I'm sorry. No, if it ain't the real thing, I'd rather not do it.
Don't bother.
That's right. And
there was a TikTok trend a couple years ago. There was a vegan trying to say that you could air fry bacon in like brown sugar and that it tasted, or you could air fry carrots. Sorry.
Oh, and it tastes like bacon?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's like grasshoppers takes like chicken. I don't maybe 3 inches in Columbia area and 4 to 6 in Macon, and go norther and more snow, right?
And 6 by the Friday storm.
Yeah. Wow. Now, is that cumulatively or is that an additional? Did we clear that up?
I think that was additional.
Wow. So it could
I was going to say they're 2 separate storms. So.
Wow. So it could be a total of, we could be looking 8 to 12 inches. Wow. Holy cow. Wow. Well, we're waiting for Blaine Luetkemeyer to call us. We had him scheduled to be on at 8:10 this morning. Normally he's with us the first Monday of every month, but of course last Monday was, New Year's Day. So he should be here. So we hope that he will be coming on somehow. But in the meantime, I have a question for you, Hannah and John. We like to keep our decorations up inside and outside for a long time because a lot goes into the execution of putting those out. And this year I bought a lawn angel, beautiful glittering lawn angel, with a sweeping skirt and glittering. She still remains. I wonder if she'll withstand the big winds. I also have a couple of.
She might take flight.
Yes, I like the deer. The you're going to love this, producer Hannah. the buck chasing, in sort of like behind the doe, right?
Oh, wow.
Waving his head, and the doe is, eating the grass. He's courting her. You might say stalking her, as bucks and does will do. They're still up. My big Santa is still up on the porch. I don't know if I should get them off the lawn. Should I leave them up or get them off the lawn? I don't know what to do.
If you want them to be able to be displayed next Christmas.
You think they'll short out? Maybe?
I would put them up.
John, do you have an opinion on this?
Yeah, probably about time to take them down.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe I at least bring them in. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. Helene's out. So Helene, my wife is freaking out because she has to go into Lambert tonight to fly out to meet my daughter because my daughter's having terrible, and not feeling really well. And she's got a couple of the young ones out there. So she's going out and help. She's freaking out because there might be a little snow on the way in. I said, it's 3:00. You're going to be heading out. It's not a big deal. I got a room at the airport, a Holiday Inn for her. I said, you can wear she's going to North Carolina. I said, you can wear your flip-flops. And, just because they never have snow out there, and you'll be covered in the shuttle will get you to the terminal. It's funny how people get anxious over the snow.
I am one of those people.
Are you really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, only if I have to drive somewhere.
You don't drive a snow-friendly vehicle, right?
I'm in an SUV, so it's not.
Oh man,
it's not the worst.
All-wheel drive?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh. Yeah, you should be in good shape.
This will be my first winter in this car, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
When I was a teenager, my mom, the first time she let me drive on roads that were just a little bit icy, I put my car in the ditch. So I learned the hard way that if you start to slide on the ice, you don't slam on the brake.
All right. Now, wait a minute. Hey, you go, Doug. Thank you, Doug. Doug says, my birthday's on the 16th of January. Call us on your birthday, Doug. I never take down my decorations until after. Go, Randy. We usually get around to it sometime around Valentine's Day. Maybe Super Bowl, maybe during the playoffs, the NFL playoffs, a couple weeks before. I like that. I like it up. And, there's a story in, one of the national newspapers about people leaving their Christmas tree up, but turning it into a seasonal tree. A Valentine's tree, a patriotic tree, a memorial tree. So I don't know. I think things are changing. You never know. Now, Sandy says, get my outdoor lawn ornaments picked up. Bill says, after the Epiphany, Christmas decorations should come down. I mean, Walmart already has Valentine's out. Yeah. All right.
I think they had those out, December 25th at noon.
When people were buying Valentine's Stanley cups.
Yeah. Oh,
that was at Target.
Okay. Any change in the forecast?
Not any big change right now. I do want to mention something that is deeply troubling. That Secretary Ashcroft has tweeted, and news. He's saying that his home was swatted last night. This is on a tweet from Secretary Ashcroft. I'll just read it to you. My home was just swatted. My family and I are safe. I am grateful to Jefferson City law enforcement for the professionalism with which they handled the situation. So not a whole lot of details. John, for our Eagle listeners, I'd love to later. I know you're swamped with snow too, but I'd love to get a voicer on this one. I think this is definitely newsworthy.
We're going to follow up on that. We were just getting a little wind of it now.
And again, very, very early. You look at some of the comments. Obviously, even people that criticize Ashcroft don't like his politics. They're saying this. Although one person says he's been a hideous attorney general. But that said, nobody should be swatted. Well, he's not the attorney general. He's the Secretary of State. Very important to note. But
it's always the ones who are so critical that have all the details wrong.
And he's never been attorney general. His father was attorney general. That's close to 40 years ago. But he said his home was just swatted. We don't have a whole lot of details on that. But it's one of those things that you just. You hear more and more about people being swatted, but that is something we will keep an eye on, and I know John is as well. Very quickly on the weather, I thought Tony Lupo did very powerful. John, I'm glad you asked him about Friday. I thought that was important, although I'm trying to focus a lot on this one, but it's worth mentioning Friday. But he thinks 6 inches, obviously, but he thinks Columbia is closer to 2 to 4. Jeff said 1 to 3 with this first one. But just to our north in Moberly, they could get anywhere from 6 to 8 potentially, Macon as well. So it's just something we're going to have to keep a close eye on. We will continue to keep a close eye on that.
We are in a political season. We say it every time, but it appears as though this may be one of the most pivotal election seasons in this general election, and it's going to be all through the states as well. I mean, the state and local elections. I think at this time when there's so much division in our country, what are the big issues and how do they affect us? Well, I think the national issues, because there's more and more consolidation of power and money at the national level. After all, the 6 richest counties in America surround Washington, D.C. Wonder why that is. Lamborghini and Maserati, capital of the world, right?
They also have some of the poorest people.
They do. And I think that actually depicts what's going on in our country, right? You've got an oligopoly, essentially. Businesses, we talked about it with the customer service bit. If you didn't hear that before the 8 o'clock hour, customer service is abysmal. Why? Because there's consolidation in healthcare, in communications, in tech, and they just can say, hey, deal with it. There's just a few of us. Competition is small. At any rate, number one issue, I believe, will again, as it was in 2016, be the border. Why is the border important to us? You're seeing it now. The mayor of Denver is complaining. Chicago mayor. It's not going to be long before St. Louis, Kansas City, and yes, I would posit Columbia, Jefferson City. We will be feeling the impact of immigration. The other day on Deface the Nation, Margaret Brennan tried to give Raz and tried to give the left-wing woke and frankly justified why what Donald Trump says is, I think, partially true. The enemy of the American people is often the legacy media. Here's Margaret Brennan and Mike Johnson, just a bit of a 28-minute interview.
Even go through the deportations that you would like to see happen without the funding to actually have the process function. I mean, ICE has the capacity to hold 40,000 beds. That's not nearly matching what you're describing.
In a triage situation, you have to stop the flow first before you can commence with the surgery. And we're hemorrhaging here, and everyone knows it. Did you know that in this?
So the left continues to beat this drum that the problem with our system is once the termites are in the house, we're not hiring the exterminator to get rid of them and the repairman to repair the eaten up door frames and floor joists. And Mike Johnson repeatedly said the problem is keeping them out. What happened to Remain in Mexico? Biden did away with that. What happened to stopping catch and release? He reintroduced catch and release. I mean, I want to post this interview on the Wake Up Mid-Missouri site. This was a brilliant. Mike Johnson is the right man at this time as Speaker of the House. I mean, this guy nailed it. And he just, everything that she threw at him, he respectfully, in a measured but very firm way, brought it. He said, stop the bleeding. We don't need more attorneys. We don't need more detention facilities. We need to stop them at the door. You don't wait until the criminal is inside your door to call the police if you know they're out on your lawn.
We are seeing. I've noticed this too. There's been so many of those. I'm glad you played the clip there. There was an interview that an NBC reporter did with Vivek Ramaswamy. I don't know if you saw that last week, where he really fired back at her, but she was interrupting him a number of times. And what we're seeing in a lot of these more traditional, whether it's the Sunday shows or these talk shows, is we're seeing a lot of the hosts, I see it more and more, interrupting the newsmaker, whoever it is there, not necessarily listening to what they say. You contrast that with Tim Russert and the way that he hosted, or Bob Schieffer from Face the Nation and Tim Russert. I thought their styles were, and they were tough on both sides. I thought we learned more in those more in those traditional settings. I thought that you learned more, but you know, the MSNBC audience, they get mad if their hosts even have a Republican on. You see that on Twitter. Right. They get mad. Right. They were furious that Kristen Welker had former President Trump on, but she was pretty tough on him. I thought she did a fair job on that. But you know, in there, I'm sure Fox has. If they were to have Chuck Schumer on, I'm sure the Fox audience probably wouldn't care for that either.
Well, we've seen Stephanopoulos go after, doesn't matter who it is, on a regular basis over the years on This Week.
And he's certainly been tough on Democrats as well. But it's just it's a different era. It really is.
We're told that Blaine Luetkemeyer will join us at 8:35. Okay, at 8:35 he'll be with us. I'm trying to get in touch with Jay Ashcroft's people to see if he can join us at 8:45. We may have to wait until later in the week to find out about him being swatted. John Marsh, a listener texts us and says, "What is swatting?"
Swatting is when, basically, just what it sounds like, when somebody makes a fake call to law enforcement and gets a SWAT team to respond through whatever, you know, domestic violence or a murder, or someone's been shot. It's by the name of it. It's what it sounds like. Basically, a fake call to get SWAT team to show up.
And it's terrifying for the residents of the home. Well, it happened to Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's happened to others nationally.
And John's absolutely right. But they could call in and say that there's an active shooter there. Yep. And very important, Mr. We don't know the specifics of it, but Ashcroft says the professionalism the JCPD displayed is significant. We know, and I think it's fair to say, everybody knows it, that Jay Ashcroft lives in Jefferson City. But I am troubled that they would know his actual address. That's not supposed to be public knowledge.
Whether it's hate on social media, whether it is hate, actionable hate like this, we've got to turn down the temperature, folks. It's fine to go after someone and their issues, but to go and threaten people's family, to have veiled threats like this, false flag operations like this that you call on someone, that, I don't know. I go back to it. Call me Law and Order Randy. If there was swift, certain, and severe punishment, John Marsh, that'd last about one more swatting, and that'd be it. But instead, the legal system unfolds. It takes years to get someone prosecuted and put in jail, or consequences. Drives me crazy, brother. Drives me crazy.
Well, it's one of those kind of deals too. If it came in from like a burner phone or something like that, yeah. How do you track them down? I mean, we're getting word now that 4 GOP lawmakers in Missouri were swatted over the Christmas holiday period.
Man. Yeah, okay. We're going to have to do a story on this and cover this as a segment in the upcoming days. This is going to get too hot and heated. Coming up, the Morning Bell. We'll figure out what's going on in the markets. Today, some mixed messages. The Dow down futures, down 140, just a few minutes ahead of the bell. And the S&P 500 up 3.5. What's going on? I think I know. Remember that door that fell off of an Alaska Airlines Boeing 737 MAX? Yep.
That'll put a dent in your Boeing stock, I'll bet.
You bet. And so, of course, Boeing, I must be on the Dow. I don't know, but the Dow Jones is, of course, a limited group and probably not a fair arbiter of how the market at large is going to do. So the S&P 500 up, the Dow down, largely on the wings of the now clipped wings of Boeing 737 MAX. I don't think a lot of airlines are really flying the MAXs anymore, but they've been grounded.
And the MAX 800, now the MAX 900, and those are the ones, that they had some real deadly problems with.
You know, I asked a flight attendant about that when we were traveling last, and they said, really, it's not a big deal anymore. And I talked to a pilot since then. Said that, they corrected. That was largely a training and simulation and whatever. It was a technical problem.
A software deal.
Yeah, it was a software deal. It's not anything wrong with the plane. Boeing doesn't build a faulty plane. It was software. Hannah, you techie young people. Software. You love your software. You love your electronics. You love your technology. But John and I, when the...
I see you punching around on that iPhone in there, Doctor. Don't give me that crap, okay?
Give me a paper chart, a dictaphone,
what?
Someone named Mabel typing in the back room, and watch me see patients. Watch me see patients.
I remember, when was it? Gosh, I guess it was last year, and they had a hack at Capital Region Medical Center in Jefferson City.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to the chief of staff over there, and he said their biggest challenge was they had all the documents and everything, all the paper trail to, admit patients and all, but a lot of the younger staffers didn't know how to use them.
That's right. And the problem is also, when I've presented with that, it's like, what are we going to do? We don't have the old, have you heard of taking a history? Have you talked to the patient? The only place this comes in is when someone comes in the emergency department and they're comatose, they can't communicate, which is rare. And even then, you can evaluate someone. There's stuff you can do. People have those bracelets that they wear. So, so we will be talking to Blaine Luetkemeyer, right? Want to make sure.
Correct.
We promised Blaine at
For
8:10.
real this time.
The real Committee, a pivotal position, chairmanship there. What led to the decision, if you don't mind sharing?
Sure. No, I'm going to be 72 years old in May, and my health is very good yet. And if I retire, I'll be able to enjoy my retirement because my health is good. And so if I wait another 2-3 terms, at my age, things can happen, and you may wind up just sitting on the porch and watching the sunset. So I thought I've got 3 kids and 7 grandkids, and I think this is my 24th year of public service and my 16th year in Congress, and just thought that if I'm going to retire, this is the time to do it. Otherwise, I'd probably wait about 2-3 more terms. I've got to set up so that I could probably be the next chairman of the Financial Services Committee in the House. But I think it's probably more important to come home and be a father and a grandfather again, and relieve some of the weight off my wife's shoulders that she's been bearing for the last 16 years. So it's a very personal decision. It has nothing to do with what's going on in Congress at all. This is about me being able to enjoy my later years as a result of my age and my continued good health.
Congressman, you and I go way back to your days as state representative, to your time as the director of the Missouri Division of Tourism, heck, back to the manager of the St. Elizabeth Crawdads. Talk to us about highlights in your career, Blaine.
Going back a long way there, John.
Talk to us about highlights.
About what now?
Maybe highlights in your career.
Oh, well, people immediately when they ask that question think I'm going to give them an answer that, all the different bills and things that I was able to pass and stuff like that. But actually, the real highlight is when you can make a difference in somebody's life. And that comes with the constituent work that you do. I mean, we had a number of situations where, we were able to help disabled veterans who couldn't get anything done with the VA and got them their disability checks. And not just their disability check, but their back amount of pay that they were due because the VA was giving them all sorts of problems. One guy even got about $300,000. They just kept messing with him for years. And so for us to make that sort of a difference in one life is very, very important, I think, because that's what you're there for. You're there to help your constituents have access to the services of the government. And so, I've had a lot of legislative successes. I mean, I'm somebody that actually legislates. We got a few folks in Congress right now. All they want to do is raise hell and throw rocks. They don't really want to do the hard work, which is legislating. But I had a bill that reformed HUD for the first time in over 20 years, and had 62 different provisions. Worked with Emmanuel Cleaver on it, and it was actually the first rule bill, which is a bill that can actually comes out of the Rules Committee and can be amended on the House floor. The first time in over 25 years that we had a rule bill go to the floor without an amendment and passed unanimously in the House and unanimously in the Senate. I mean, that's a hell of an achievement. And for that, I got the award for the most effective legislator in Congress one year. So, we've had a lot of other legislative successes. I was a part of the PPP program that half a dozen guys that designed that thing, and it was very successful. Saved millions of people's jobs and millions of small businesses. There was a small hiccup with it, and I told them we're going to get it because you let the fintech companies into it. But that aside, it was a very successful program. So, we've I've been in the middle of a lot of different different activities there in Congress because of my seniority and the committees I'm on. A lot of it doesn't get a lot of press because financial services is kind of a yawner when it comes to all the things that go on, but the really, really important stuff comes out of there because it allows you access to credit, allows the communities to grow. They're on the Small Business Committee and fought hard to make sure that the rules and regulations get pushed back. I was the guy that pushed back on Operation Choke Point and got that stopped. We've had a very, I think, successful career, and I think we made a difference. And I think when you go to Congress, that's what you hope to do, make a difference in the lives of the people that you represent, the state you represent, and the people of this country.
In the wake of the announcement of his retirement, Congressman Blaine Luetkemeyer joins us on Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning.
Randy, thank you, Congressman. We appreciate you joining us live. We thank you for your service, of course, first elected to the Missouri House back in 1998. And Governor Mel Carnahan was the governor at that time and elected to the Congress for your first term in 2008. I like the approach you talked about, constituent services, and I want to focus on that rather than the politics, and I want to look at the overarching thing, and I want people to listen closely to what the congressman had to say, because I talk all the time about constituent services. That's what they do. It's not guns and abortion, folks, even though that's important. It's constituent services that they get the most calls about. And it doesn't matter, Congressman, who the president is. We've always had these issues with these federal agencies. My question is simple. Why does it take a person from the public, a citizen, to have to call their congressman to get their veterans benefits? Why is that necessary? That's terrible.
Well, I can tell you it's the same problem we had when I was a state rep. You have some bureaucrats who think that they are little gods within their little fiefdom there, the little bureaucracy, and they're going to do what they want to do regardless of what the legislature says. And so you just have to push back on that kind of mentality. Can't let them get away with it. You rock the boat and shake the system up whenever you go in and explain to them that you know, I get pretty frank with them and say, you know what, you and I got the same job. And they look at you and say, what do you mean? I say, we both serve the public. And right now, you're not serving the public, you're in the way. And it's going to stop. And so we have a heart-to-heart. And when that happens, because I am the legislator, I have the upper hand, we get things done. And so, you know, sometimes you just have to take a hardball approach. Sometimes you can reason with them. But we, at the end of the day, do have power over their budgets. And whenever that power is exerted, we can get things done. So, but it's their attitude toward the people that they're supposed to be serving. This is what really frosts me with these people. There's a lot of great people in the bureaucracy, in the government, in administration, both administrations, back when I was a state rep and administration. Sure. But there's also a bunch of jerks. Let's be honest. And those jerks think that they own that little world that they live in, and they don't. They forget the real reason for that agency, and that's to help people or help communities or help states, whatever the agency may be. And when you lose that focus, that's my job, to wake them up and get them refocused.
No doubt power is a dangerous thing because it can be abused. It can be used in the proper way. And let's pivot on that pillar, recognizing that there are limitations and you wield it when you need to and you hold back when you don't have the authority or shouldn't. Have you thought about if, how, when, and in which way you're going to calibrate an endorsement to replace you? As, of course, this has changed. This has just really thrown into total upheaval the politics here in Missouri.
Well, I'm going to wait till we get, past the end of March, which is when the filing period ends, and see once who has stepped up and put their name on the line to be the next congressman. And, I want the citizens to be engaged in this. I've got a lot of phone calls already from a lot of good people who are interested in serving. And I think there's a number of them that could be capable of doing the job. There's a couple that couldn't, but they'll get weeded out shortly. But I think let's see what the field looks like, and then we'll go from there. But I think at this point, let's let everybody make their own decision in their own way, and with all the information they can get, and see what happens.
All right, sounds great. As the session gets underway here, your last session as a congressman, I'm sure there's a lot of business that you'd like to see get done despite the divided Congress, and we'll be interested in following those issues with you as time goes on. Hope you'll be joining us as you have in the past every month at the beginning of the month. We look forward to the next conversation.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to be with all of my constituents and to talk to them directly through your station. Randy and John this morning, and Brian, and it's been an honor to serve them over these years. We look forward to this coming year. We want to run through the tape here to the finish line and make sure we make a difference, continue to make a difference for our citizens of our district and our state. And I appreciate the opportunity to get the information to them directly from me through you. So it's great to have this opportunity. Thank you so much.
And I want to take the opportunity to thank you, whether it's been on my radio station when you were my representative in St. Louis, because I was living in Northeast Missouri but doing a show there, whether it's been here, you've taken some barbs and arrows and taken them nobly and answered things with candor. And I think that's all we can ask. We really appreciate that so much. Look forward to it going forward.
Thank you, Randy. Always fun. Take care.
All right, you too.
Thank you, Congressman.
And thank you very, very much. Powerful interview, and I'm sure we'll be following up with that. And he indicated that he will probably be taking a look at it, and I would not be surprised if he presidential candidates' names off the ballot. Bill Eigel is going to apparently file a bill about that. But the most pressing issue that we hope to talk to him about, and of course he's being inundated with media requests, and so we hope he'll join us here on what is normally the leftover section. But we have to pivot to what's most important to you, and in this case, we believe this is crucially important, don't you think, John Marsh? Because man,
oh, for sure,
you can't have public officials, elected officials, appointed officials, whoever they are. You can't have people having SWAT teams raid in on their house and middle of the night. This is crazy. What do we know while we await that? What do we know about the elements of Jay Ashcroft being swatted?
Jay got onto his X account and said that they got a swatting call to the Jefferson City Police Department Sunday night. And like you said, that's when there's a false emergency report where somebody places a call to the cops and says something critical or, untoward is going on. And they showed up, and I think Secretary of State's line was they handled it with a lot of professionalism and all. I know he was interviewed by the Post-Dispatch over the weekend and basically said he'd consider removing Joe Biden from the upcoming presidential ballot in Missouri if Colorado and Maine are allowed to keep Donald Trump off of it. So you wonder if that prompted somebody to go ahead and make the swatting call.
Yeah, and I think it's
Jay lives in Jefferson City.
Yeah, it's a tragic time in America when people, just because of ideological or political differences, have to pull these kind of maneuvers, and it speaks ill of. I mean, presumably this is the left. We would never know. I mean, that's the problem, as we talked about earlier. John, you don't know. I mean, is it someone usually they're using a burner phone, right? So it's going to be hard to track. Could it be one of Jay Ashcroft's opponents? Could it be a false flag operator? Who knows what it is? But it's ridiculous.
You would hope not, but politics.
Yeah, and in that, I'm not going to go through the thing, but over the weekend, Nikki Haley was called out by a DeSantis PAC. A couple of quotes that she recently said. I never said that I was inspired by Hillary Clinton. Well, some fact check, and they then used highly edited clips. What she actually said was she had been at leadership forums where, as a woman, Hillary Clinton says, "Look, when they tell you not to go for it, you go for it, girls." It was a women's leadership forum. That's a totally different. And she said over and over in those old quotes that they're now pulling out but edited out. In fact, they were edited in no context. Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft now joins us. Boy, I tell you, what sounds like a harrowing event. Thanks last minute for joining us, Jay. Appreciate it. Everything okay at home?
Yeah, everything is. And really, I've got to start off by thanking the Jefferson City Police Department. Obviously, when they get a call that someone has killed their wife and shot other people, I'm sure the adrenaline starts for them, and it could have ended very badly. But I didn't know how to go through something like that. Never thought I'd be involved in it, but they just handled it with such professionalism that it worked out. It was a little scary when I was walking out of my house after I told my wife to take all the kids to the farthest part of the house away from the front door, and I walked out with my hands up into the darkness to see who I was going to meet. But everything worked out well, and I just thank the police department.
So how did it unfold? I mean, were there loud knocks and yelling at the front door? What happened?
No, thankfully there were not. There was a report to the police, an anonymous report, and then the police called my cell phone. And of course, I'm like, "Who are you? I don't know who you are calling me," but they were patient with me. And I just thought they were very professional. They ended up with them asking me very politely, but somewhat forcibly, to walk out the front door of my house. They were quick to remind me not to be carrying anything and not to make any sudden movements. I did that, and it worked out well. And this is why we need to support the police. This is why we need to thank people that are willing to do that, because it's dangerous for the police. They don't know what situation they're getting into. If it is not a swatting but a true threat, they're putting their lives on the line.
Okay. Well, look, we're running out of time, but hopefully as things go forward, we can learn more about this, maybe learn what can be done about it. I mean, we don't have any clue what can be done because these are usually done on burner phones, right?
They do try to make them anonymously. I definitely think we need to look at what the law is to make sure that when people do this to anyone, not just to an elected official, I don't like special laws, that the penalties are severe, because I can't imagine what might have happened if my son had been home alone and this had happened.
Yeah, and when we talk to A.G. Bailey next time, severe is one thing, but how about swift and certain? Let's include that in there, too. We've got to find some deterrence in swift, certain, and severe punishment for this egregious action. Jay, we're glad you're safe. We're glad your family's safe, and I know there's going to be some psychological fallout from this, but hope you guys all stay well. Thanks very much for joining us. All right, there he is, Jay Ashcroft, just off of a swatting. That wraps it up on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stay tuned for the great Gary Nolan and, of course, Brian Hansen on the Gary Nolan Show.